Hello and welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. I'm Dustin. This is the Week 16 waiver wire report heading into championship week. Got a lot of guys you're going to want to take a look at. Most of these guys we're telling you to look at just because of their matchups. So keep that in mind when you see some of the names we got on this list. Now we're going to start in an unlikely place, and that's in the Oakland-Cleveland game. We think there's a good chance this game is a shootout like the Cleveland-Kansas City game last week. A lot of points, a lot of fantasy points to go around. We're going to start in Oakland with Michael Bush, who's owned 15% of leagues, and McFadden owned in 30. They're going to be splitting carries, but we think both of these guys have a decent chance at putting up some numbers. If you're desperate, we like both of these guys. A sneaky receiver is Chad Schillens. We think he's the best receiver out there in Oakland. He had a decent game last week, caught a touchdown. We were high on him coming into the season, only owning 5% of the leagues. Now, this is just if you're desperate for a receiver. Now, let's head out to Cleveland. Jerome Harrison. I don't even know what to say about this situation anymore. They're flipping back and forth. They're taking turns. If history repeats itself, it's Chris Jennings' turn to go ahead and take over for the running back job for this week. But I don't see how they can take Harrison out of the lineup after what he did last week. We had about 50 fantasy points. He's only on 35% of leagues. If you can get him, if you're desperate, start him. But it's still going to be scary just because you don't know who's going to get the ball out there week to week. But definitely try to pick him up off the waivers and just hear what they say, listen to what they say about who's going to get the carries, and maybe make a game time decision with him. Another guy, Joshua Cribbs. If you get any points for return yards, must add, and you might even consider playing him this week, only on 35% of leagues. Now, one must add, must play at running back we feel is Jason Snelling. Now, it looks like Turner's going to miss another game this week, and Norwood got banged up in the last week's game as well. Snelling's only owning 40% of leagues. They're going up against Buffalo this week, one of the worst defenses against the run. Snelling, must add, must play this week. Another guy that could very well be a must-play this week is Beanie Wells. He's only owning 75% of leagues right now. He had a big game last week against Detroit. They're going up against the Rams this week, so he has another good chance of putting up some fantasy points. But the only reason we don't really like Wells is that if he does fumble, he could get some carries taken away from him. So just be wary of that when you're making your decisions. Also, Maurice Morris. Big game on Sunday, but they're going up against the 49ers this week. Morris, only if you're desperate. You know he's going to get the touches, but it's a tough defensive matchup. He's probably going to have a hard time moving the ball. Now, I do want to take a second and talk about the Houston running back situation. It was very unfortunate with Foster. He had a huge upside last week, but he fumbled early in the game, which was our biggest fear. Didn't touch the ball again. Moats came in. Now, it does look like Moats is probably the one to own out there, but we would steer clear of that situation. All it takes is one fumble, and then they don't touch the ball for the rest of the game. So we say steer clear of the Houston situation. All right, defense. San Francisco's defense must add, must play this week against Detroit. They're only owning 55% of leagues. San Francisco's defense had some really big fantasy games this year. They could have a big one in championship week when it counts the most. Sticking out there with the 49ers, Alex Smith could be a sneaky quarterback play. He's proven over the last 6 weeks or so that against weak matchups, he can put up some fantasy points. If you don't like your quarterback, look at Alex Smith. To go along with that, Josh Morgan and Crabtree. Crabtree's owned 75% of leagues. Josh Morgan only owned in 5. Both these guys could give you some fantasy value this week if you need a receiver. We got one tight end for you in Jermichael Finley. He's only owned 35% of leagues. They're going up against Seattle this week. He's had good games in 2 out of his last 3. He could be a good bet to have another one this week. So that's it. This is our last waiver wire show. We will be back next year. We'll be in the forums all week trying to answer as many questions as we can. Good luck in championship week and good luck on the waiver wire.